There was a period of time when I was a kid where I was obsessed with Twisted Metal. Something about these games, especially the early ones, just had me so intrigued. The overall concept, the character design, and even the lore, I was all about Twisted Metal. Fun fact, Twisted Metal games are responsible for 3 of my major Sony console purchases. The main reason I wanted a PlayStation 1 was for Twisted Metal 1 and 2. Twisted Metal Black is when I finally decided to go and get a PlayStation 2. And despite being a poor college student with very little money, Twisted Metal Head-On made me just have to get a PSP. It's just so funny to me how I put so many hours into these games, and when I try to play them today, I just can't get into it. The controls are clunky, the mechanics are wonky, and although I still love the design, the story, and the characters, these games just haven't really aged well. When I first got my PlayStation 1, for a very long time, the only game I had was Twisted Metal. So needless to say, I played this game up and down, inside and out, through and through. And one thing I used to do while taking breaks in between the vehicular combat action was go into the options menu and click on this demos tab. And all this tab did was basically play the trailer for Twisted Metal, but if you waited long enough, the trailer for another game would pop up. This game is Warhawk. I watched this damn trailer so many times and thought to myself this game looked really badass. I told myself I would eventually get it and try it out, but it just didn't seem to happen. As my PlayStation 1 collection continued to grow and expand, I got games like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. Time went on and on. Meanwhile, Warhawk just stood on my list of games I wanted to play, but just never got a chance to check it out. So now, after almost 30 years of this game eluding my attention, I'm finally gonna sit down, and today I'm gonna play some Warhawk. Quick disclaimer, the footage for this is recorded off of an emulator. I tried to hook up my capture device to my original PlayStation 1 using a bunch of converters, and the image quality just looked like ass. At least with this emulator, I can use some upscalers and apply some filters so that we could get a really decent image. So right from the jump, we're treated to some full motion video sequences. I can't believe all of us, myself included, thought that at one point this was the future of video games. This kind of hybrid interactive storytelling using live actors mixed with gameplay. Most games that use FMV sequences really haven't aged well. And if I'm being quite honest, watching them is pretty cringe today. But the overall story of Warhawk is some bad guy is making a new weapon. Warhawk is some prototype experimental aircraft. Enter generic commander, enter generic 2 pilots, and you have Warhawk, the Red Mercury missions. The first level is designed to get you familiar with the overall gameplay and controls. You start out in cockpit view, but you can actually drop back into third person. And considering the time period, I think the cockpit view is actually pretty well done. I especially like the little screen that's almost like a picture-in-picture there. That's pretty advanced for 1995. But the Warhawk is just so badass, you don't want to sit in cockpit view. You want to see this aircraft in all of its glory, blow some stuff up. You actually have mission objectives, so you don't need to dogfight every other aircraft that's trying to intercept you. The gameplay reminds me a little bit of Star Fox mixed in with some Star Wars games like Rogue Squadron. The controls were pretty easy to get the hang of. The X button is your afterburner. Circle launches your missiles. Square is your machine gun. Triangle cycles you through the various weapons. L1 allows you to roll left. R1 allows you to roll right. R2 serves as kind of a throttle, and L2 is pretty much the brake. Now you can actually make the Warhawk hover in place. And while it's hovering in place, you can actually change the altitude up and down. This comes in big handy for a lot of the boss battles. In terms of weaponry, the Warhawk has some pretty generic missiles that it launches, with the exception of its signature weapon, where it sprays out these 6 missiles that scatter around and lock onto their target. They actually create a pretty cool effect. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Warhog's special attack from Twisted Metal, just much cooler. This weapon stood as my go-to throughout this entire playthrough. The first thing I noticed is that a lot of the sound effects were recycled sound effects from Twisted Metal, which I thought was really cool, and not surprising considering the game was made by the same devs. The objective for the first mission is basically to shoot these 4 strategic points on this platform, all while tanks, other aircraft, and stationary turrets try to shoot you down. Once you shoot these 4 pillars, the pyramid raises from the ground and starts the first boss battle. You shoot up some more strategic points and then eventually blow up the top of the pyramid. You retrieve the canister and the level ends. Overall, I have to say this is a great first level. It's really fun and does a really good job of introducing you to the gameplay. The second level throws a nice curveball at you, and you're no longer playing in an open platform. In this level, you're in some type of canyon, and the whole thing is set up like a maze. You have to navigate around, avoid enemy fire, and wipe out these various enemy strongholds. In this level, you have to search for 2 canisters to complete your mission objective. I have to say, I really wasn't expecting this. I thought every level was going to be the same. It's really nice to see that they mixed up the gameplay. And if you weren't familiar with the gameplay and the mechanics yet and how to control this thing, you will be by the end of this level. Navigating through this canyon, especially throughout some of the more tight corridors, at certain points could be a bit of a pain, but if you control your throttle, you eventually get the hang of it. It's definitely more difficult than the first level, but I had a ton of fun playing it. The next mission is the Warhawk by itself versus an entire fleet. In this mission, you have to collect 8 canisters, and holy hell did the difficulty jump for this mission. The canisters are scattered all throughout, they're on various aircrafts, and you actually have to enter this main aircraft on both ends. So not only does your shooting have to be up to par, you have to use all of the navigating skills that you learned from the previous level. I died over and over, but thankfully this game has cheats. So I didn't want to sit here for 4 hours on this one mission, so I gave myself infinite ammo. I wouldn't really say there's a definitive boss in this level, but as you collect more and more canisters, the opposing forces become stronger and stronger. It's a fun mission, but damn was it hard. The next mission has you taking out enemy installations around this active volcano. You have to collect 6 canisters this time, and the mission kind of reminds me of the first one. With the exception of, and I thought this was really cool, especially considering the time period this game came out, is this level is 2-tiered. Once you wipe out the installations around the base of the volcano, you actually have to travel above the clouds, and there are more installations up there. This whole mission was really cool. And this effect was way ahead of its time. We're talking like early PlayStation days when this game came out. I don't say this often about a PS1 game, but I was impressed with these visuals. The way the clouds and the sky look, this was my favorite mission by far. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for this next mission. The game just kind of flies off the rails at this point. This mission is a maze navigation similar to the canyon, but you're in like Dracula's castle or something, because there's all these booby traps, there's fire coming out of the ground. It just doesn't fit the setting. Like, what the hell happened? Not only is navigating these tight spaces extremely frustrating, but you're constantly getting smacked around and did in by all these booby traps. This is some straight up Kevin McAllister shit right here. I got twisted around in circles multiple times, and this level took me forever to beat. It was really annoying. Eventually you find the boss hiding in the sewer or something, and this guy just looks like a really bad Power Ranger villain. You blow his ass up and escape through some sewer pipe, and the level ends. I don't know what the hell happened. Until this point, the game really had me, but this level was just not fun. It was annoying, it was too damn long, and yes, it was difficult, but that's not really the problem. The problem is it just was not fun. It doesn't get much better in the next level. You're literally fighting Sauron's tower, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, what the hell happened to this game? We went from futuristic aircraft dogfights to Elder Scrolls Oblivion. You just keep blowing up the strategic points on the tower, make your way up, and the boss will eventually show himself. And just when I thought it couldn't get any more ridiculous, this boss battle is insane. It's a giant floating head with some crab arms shooting missiles and dragons at you. Yeah. Like, who the hell pitched this? Who thought this was a good direction to take the game? Like, let's make 4 levels of a futuristic space aircraft shooter, and then let's have the last 2 levels take place in Bowser's castle. It really just sucked me out of the game, and at this point, I just wanted it to be over. This was a lot more fun than the last level, but the whole time I was just thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? So you blow up the floating scorpion crab head, and you're greeted to one of multiple endings. I guess I got the bad one because my mother base got blown up, and it said I'm stuck in this world, like doomed, something like that. I really didn't give a shit. I was just happy to be done with it at this point. And that's Warhawk. This game was great. For 4 levels, I was having a blast. I don't know why they thought that these last 2 levels were the right direction to take the game. All that aside, I actually had a lot of fun playing most of this game. You know, when it comes to the PlayStation 1, I feel like a lot of the games just haven't aged well. Like, I could fire up my N64 and spend the entire afternoon playing most of the games in my collection and having a blast. But when it comes to the PS1, I feel like a lot of the games that I have really fond memories of, I'll try to play today and have my nostalgic bubble bursted to find that they just haven't aged well and don't play good. But that's not the case with Warhawk. I had a lot of fun with this game, and I'm actually pretty sad that I missed out on it when I was a kid. This definitely would have been one that I went to over and over again. But nonetheless, that's why I played it now, today, almost 30 years later, and it's not a bad game, especially for it being one of the early PlayStation 1 games. Warhawk definitely gets the Gamehead Ness seal of approval for at least 4 levels. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, this is Ness, signing out.